marathon mates, and we are excited to bring you the third episode of the Flying RuNR podcast. This week, we will discuss the Sydney Marathon and its journey towards being the 7th World Marathon Major, as well as host an interview with Terry Frew, a 6-star World Marathon Major runner. Terry will share his marathon journey and discuss what is next for him as he moves onwards and upwards from the highs of the 6-star. Are you ready to run? Let's go.
Welcome to the thrilling world of the Flying RuNR, brought to you by the Marathon Mates.
Welcome back to the Flying RuNR. I'm Tim, one part of Team Ellis Running, and I'm joined on the panel by Tara, the other part of Team Ellis Running, and by Tony, our marathon mate, and the originator of this crazy idea to do a podcast. Thank you everyone for joining us again. We cannot believe how popular our little show has become. For those of you that have invested some time by listening to us just chatting about running and all sorts of other things, thank you very much. In this episode, we're going to talk to one of our marathon mates who is a 6-star finisher, Terry Frew. Terry recently completed his 6th marathon major in Tokyo earlier this year, and he's going to talk about the journey that he has taken around the world on his running journey, on his running adventures. But first, how are you guys going? Tony and Tara, how's your week been and how's your training going?
Well, we had a longer run on Saturday. We knocked over 18K, so we're pretty happy with that. So, and while I was doing that, I was thinking we should really need to probably put a show in there about long runs and long run strategies, because everyone's got a slightly different strategy, and it's always be interesting for people to understand how we prep and prepare for our longer runs. But yeah, training was good, but you guys had a great day out there at the Jetty to Jetty, I see.
Yeah, Jetty to Jetty is always one of our favourites because it's 2 weeks after Gold Coast. We use it sort of like as a, I know it sounds weird, but like a cool down. It's a 2 week afterwards cool down sort of. It's fun just to catch up with friends and our running community there. We only ever do the 10Ks. We don't ever try and push it out to the half. But Tim did it by himself. It is one that we usually run separately. So Tim ran by himself and got sub 50, which is
just cruising.
It was one of his slower runs, but we were just trying to take it easy. I walked with some friends that aren't runners, and I'm just trying to get them into that whole scene of things. So I walked with three of those girls that I catch up with regularly, and then I got to run the last probably K and a half with a really good friend that we've met through running, who's just recently lost her husband. They used to always run Jetty to Jetty together, so I ran the last 1.5 Ks with her just for that emotional side of things, just so that she wasn't finishing by herself. So, yeah, it was lovely.
It is. It sounds absolutely wonderful. So, and it's always good when you can do that, show support and care for people around you. So, which park run did you guys attend on Saturday?
We went to South Bank Park Run. We got to run with my sister for a change. So, my sister is really enjoying her running. She's recently done a half marathon, her first half marathon, and she's got that bug. She's had it for quite a number of years, but I guess she's just starting to really get to a stage of life where she just enjoys running, and we got to catch up with her. And most importantly, I guess, afterwards, we got to socialise and have a cup of coffee and a nice breakfast afterwards, which largely is what parkrun's about. It's about the community side of it. And we did a bit of extra running as well in between just to warm up and, get some extra Ks in the legs. So all up, I think over the weekend both Saturday. Between Saturday and Sunday, I think it was about 30 Ks or so, 12 Ks roughly on Saturday, and then about 18 on Sunday, 10K obviously racy, and then four Ks before and 4Ks afterwards. So yeah, it's been a pretty good weekend. I've also had a bit of a head cold in the middle stages of last week there, which knocked me about for a day or two. So training was pretty light. So to then come out and go sub 50, I was happy with that, given it's not easy when you're coming out of those sort of things. And I think it's just, you get this, you've probably noticed it before. I know Tara's noticed it before. When you do your marathons, you tend to come off the marathons and your body's taking a while to adjust, and little bugs and things will just hit you a week or two afterwards.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, so just got to make sure when you do a longer race or a run or anything like that, that you do look after yourself afterwards, because
it takes some time.
Everything is pretty low in your body afterwards for some time, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It does take a little while, especially when you're doing long runs like marathons and half marathons. And I guess it's the same for anybody. It doesn't matter whether it's a 5K distance or a 10K distance. If that's the furthest that you run, it sometimes can just take your body just that little bit longer just to recover and get back to where it should be. Yeah.
But it's interesting how your body starts to adapt as well, because when I think back to when Sharon and I first started running, we'd do a 10K and then that's it for the day. We just wouldn't be able to do anything else. We'd lie on the couch and, you've got the remote there and you do the TV, and heaven forbid the first half marathon we ever did. Your body starts to adjust, and now all of a sudden I can do 18 on like we did on Saturday with absolutely no dramas, and then go over and help a mate unload his trailer of rubbish. So it's amazing how you do adapt.
Yeah,
now, Tim, very much so. Tim, I just want to pick up on something you said in the intro about how popular this little podcast is, and I do want to pick up on that, because it is something that I feel is quite amazing and humbling at the same time. And like over the weekend, we obviously both had really good weekends, but during the weekend we ranked number 12 in the Apple Australia running chart, which is just incredible. And I was having a look at some of the breakdown of the stats, and I just thought people might find this interesting, because when you look at where our listeners or viewers are from, 90% are obviously Australian, so thank you very much to all the Aussies. But we've got 6% of our listening coming out of United States, and then 4% in the United Kingdom, and we've got a small foothold of 1% sitting there in the Netherlands. So thank you to these people, and please share it around. We've got 54% that listen through Spotify, and that's awesome, because that's also the video podcast as well, so you can watch us or listen to us. You get a choice. And 25% are coming through the Apple podcasts. Interestingly, 52.6 are female and 43.9 are male. So maybe that's the Tara influence, and Frew, which is awesome.
Tara is a big influencer.
Absolutely.
And then when you look at the age breakdown, over 52% are between that 45 and 59 bracket. So, and then we've got 22, almost 23% 60 plus, and 19.3 at 36 to 44. So once again, an interesting breakout and breakdown of our listeners, and I think we've got a really clear target market there, don't we? Just very much so.
We've got to get the ratings up in the Netherlands somehow if we're at 1%. So if you are listening to this in the Netherlands, tell your friends about us.
Yeah.
I would like to give a big shout out to Team Kerr, who are in Northern Ireland, who I do know listen to us. So a big shout out to Aaron and the rest of the Team Kerr guys. They're fantastic. And we might even try and get them on for a podcast one day. So if they're up for it.
So that's big news.
Now, I know Tim is just about to get into the exciting news around the Sydney Marathon fields that have been announced. But before he does, I just wanted to chime in because there was 2 big pieces of news in the running world this week. First up is Elliot Kipchoge is going to run Boston again. And I think Tim's excited about that.
He's not running Boston.
Sorry, Berlin again. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think Tim's excited about that because that's a personal challenge I think he'll take up. So
he's been dodging us for too long. He's been ducking and weaving and trying to avoid Team Ellis.
Yeah.
And, we're gonna give him a head start. We'll let him start up the front of the course, up the front of the field, and we'll start back in the towards the rear. But we'll see if we can have a crack at catching him.
And I think that's so exciting. Once again, you've got. It'll be the second major, I think, when we ran New York, and when Sharon and I ran New York in 2018, Kipchoge won that year. So it'll be our second time running with him on the same course. But even in bigger news than that, I know that this is huge. Well, at least it was in our household. Team Curl have made the move, and we have now moved from Apple Watch to Garmin. So we are now, I think, officially runners because we've got the Garmin. So I think that's pretty exciting news. It is from my part, and just some of the additional little stats that we can see is pretty exciting for us both at the moment.
In the world of real runners now with Garmin. I'm sure those on Puntos and Polars and everything else would be dismissing the Garmin runners, but Garmin's are a good sturdy watch. And are you noticing any difference between, apart from some of the stats, are you noticing any difference in accuracy or in timing or anything like that? Or
interesting. And as you know, I've always been totally perplexed by the differences in GPS and timing when Sharon and I run together. And yet she'll end up 3 minutes faster and running 6 kilometers longer or something. It just made no sense to me. And needless to say, I think that the Garmin is a little bit closer, even though there is still a slight discrepancy. But I just the additional screens that you can see while you're running. Yep. And the interesting thing, and once again, like people know that we run and some people call it walk, I call it recover. So we run and recover. And Garmin gives us that breakdown at the end of a race, even though we didn't ask for it. So, and I think that's awesome, but you're getting the up-to-date pacing. So as we're running, and this is one thing that I really sat down and tried to work through. So when we do our run component, we're running at 5 minutes a kilometer pace. And then when we're walking, it's 9:30. So you put those two together and we find ourselves in the 7s per kilometer. So all of a sudden you start to think about your strategy. Well, if I can run a little bit further, and obviously if I can and maintain that 5 minute 30 pace per kilometer, that's going to have some benefit on our time. So it just makes us think a little bit more and think, okay, how can we do this? So it's interesting. So
good luck with it, and keep playing with the screens and looking at the stats, because we were the same when we got onto Garmin. The amount of stats and information that we got in there that we could then use to sort of go, okay, what if we did this? What if we did that? Can we do this? Even things like heart rate and understanding the heart rate zones a bit better, and understanding, what should an easy run be on your heart rate? Those sort of things.
And the newer watches, a lot of people say that you need to have your heart rate band, the monitor around your waist, around your chest and stuff. It's not necessarily not necessary thing anymore, because the heart rate on your watch is quite accurate.
Particularly the
Garmin's, it's quite an accurate measurement of what goes on in your body. When you look at when you've been hooked up to ECGs, and I know myself, I've done a VO2 max through, having the oxygen mask and stuff on and the electrodes and everything like that. And my watch and that matches up pretty much exact. So, yeah.
Yep. All right. So that's our news for the week that's been. I guess now talking about marathon news from around the world, and the big news over the last week or so is that the Sydney Marathon has announced a list of elite runners who will be competing in September in both the men's and women's fields. For those who don't know, Sydney is pushing hard to become the 7th world marathon major. So, besides the 6 that we already have, Abbots and the World Marathon Majors are pushing ahead to try and aim for a 7th world major. There's 3 contenders at the moment who are candidate cities. One is Sydney, one is Cape Town, and one is Chengdu in China. And they're basically going through a 2 to 3 year assessment period on those 3 courses and those 3 cities. And it's not just about, can that city host a marathon as far as, does it have a course? Does it have interested people? There's all sorts of metrics that they need to look at when they're assessing these things. So it takes a bit of time. But the key metric that they're pushing for at the moment is that all 3 candidate cities must have at least 15,000 finishes for a number of years leading into it. So Sydney's pushing really hard, as we know, to try and entice people to come there to run. So there's been a whole heap of campaigns, media campaigns. They've got influencers in the media who are running it, and they're talking about it on their Instagram posts and things like that. And this field of elites, I think, is going to be one of those things that helps entice people. And we'll go through the elites in just a little bit. But firstly, I'm presuming both of you guys want to see Sydney become the 7th major or over Cape Town and Chengdu. Is that right? Am I assuming right?
Yeah, I think you can. And the interesting point that you make there is 15,000 finishes. And at the moment, you see a lot of social media feeds in and around Sydney, and their focus has been, well, let's get the registrations up. But I think the next step then is, how do we get people to make sure that they're a finisher? Because maybe there's potential there that a lot of people are just signing up to do the right thing.
Yeah.
But we really want to see 15,000 finishes. So I think that's going to be the next step for the Sydney Marathon journey starts to take, I think. But yeah, it'd be great to see it here.
I think I'll pass it on to you in a second, Tara, but I think from a course perspective over the other ones, it's got something going for it, Sydney. It's got the Harbour Bridge. You run over the Harbour Bridge and you finish in front of the Opera House. It has views of the harbour all the way through it. So it's a pretty spectacular course from that perspective, and it would attract a lot of people to it.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I'm biased being, and, of course I want Australia to have a world major. But I would really, really like to also see Cape Town get it, because that means another travel trip for all of us. So, and I have been to Cape Town before. It is a really, really beautiful place to go. And there are some stunning parts of it that you can run through as well. So I would be happy with Sydney, definitely. But I would really like to see Cape Town get it as well, only because I want to travel more. So that's just me. So
no, I'm the same. I think having another travelling fit tour and another excuse to go on a travelling fit tour is a good thing. So, yeah. And any other thoughts on it?
Yeah, no.
You're all for it.
Yeah, I'm all for that 7th star. I would like to see if I can get my 6th star first before they introduce that 7th.
Yeah, because it's 2025. I think they're looking to implement it. So, and my preference would obviously be for Sydney. So I've never been to Cape Town, but never been to China. So I'm more than happy for it to be a hometown marathon. I think that's just a great opportunity for Australia to show off to the world. So
it will be interesting. It's a big step up to 15,000 finishes. I think most years they get around about the 5,000 or 6,000 participants to the marathon down there in the Blackmores, and they have separated out the other events to give the focus to the marathon on that weekend. So it'll be interesting. But there's a whole heap of metrics they have to meet. It's not just the finishes. It's, they've got to have certain levels of accommodation, and they've got to have an expo that meets a certain standard, and they've got to have a media presence, and there's all sorts of things they need to tick. But it appears that when you look at what's happening worldwide, and you hear the whispers from other people who are interested in the 7th major, it seems to me the rest of the world seems to think that Sydney will be the next major. So I think it's ours to lose, which is it's a good place to be, but it's got a bit of work to do, I think, to get those finishes. But it's also the crowd support as well. Getting the people of Sydney to come out and support it, not just Sydney, but people who are going to travel down to just go and watch it as well. It's going to be a big event in September.
And I guess the reason all three of us, and Sharon, of course, as well, we've got Berlin Marathon the week after Sydney Marathon. So we haven't signed up for Sydney Marathon only because of that reasoning.
But we do know some people who are running it, so we might be able to get them on afterwards. And one of them we know is running as a pacer, so maybe we might get her on afterwards to talk about her experience at some stage after.
That'd be excellent.
Yeah.
And I think our guest tonight actually signed up for Sydney. So.
He has signed up for Sydney.
So I also mentioned that there's this elite field. So I'm going to get Tara to do the tongue twister at the moment and go through the elite field for both the men's and women's. So over to you, Tara. Who's running in Sydney this year as far as elite runners go?
So my apologies profusely for the name pronunciations straight off, because that's not going to be my strong point. So in the men's elite field that we've got an Ethiopian who was world ranked number 3, Tamarat Tola. Sorry. His personal best is 2 hours, 3 minutes and 39 seconds. We then have Gabriel Gay. He is 2 hours and 3 exactly, and he's from Tanzania. He's ranked number 9. This one here is a very big tongue twister, so I apologize profusely. Yeah, okay.
Demok.
Yeah, we'll just call it Arnie Walleen. How's that?
Thank you. That's lovely. Thank you for helping me out there. His personal best is 2:05.27. He's from Ethiopia as well, and he's ranked number 22 in the world. We've got Moses Kibet and from Kenya. He's 2:05.20. He's ranked number 33. And we have Brett Robinson, who is from Australia. Yay! So he's 2:07.31, and he's ranked 104 in the world. Yeah. I think with the home ground advantage, that really might help him out to get a PB with Sydney, if he can, hang on to that top field and stick with those lead runners. I reckon he's got a really good chance with looking at how he's running at the moment. So,
And if any of those men can do their PBs or better, I think they'll set the Australian record for all comers running a marathon in Australia.
Oh, good.
I think that's the sort of times we're looking at. So to give you an idea, I think the winning time at Gold Coast a couple of weeks ago was 2:07. Doesn't even get you into the top 250 in the world as far as marathon runners go. No, it does. It gets you into the top 250. But it's a well off from where these guys are. These are 2:03 paces and 2:05, which is a big difference from 2:07. So it's a big step up in the field, I think.
Absolutely.
And it'll be interesting to see how Brett goes with that. So he ran a great race in London, but it was almost like a great personal race because he lost the lead pack quite early in that.
Yep.
And then he went top 10 at London. So, but it'll be good to see him. Yeah.
It'd be great to see him with that home ground advantage. The rest of us cheering him on too. So, and of course, we're not going to forget the women's elite field since we've got so many women listeners. We've got Judith Jeptum Cora. Her personal best is 2:18.04, and she's actually ranked number 3 in the world as well. She's from Kenya. We've got another Kenyan, Angela Tanui, 2:17:57. She's ranked number 15 in the world. Nazaret Waldu, she's got a time of 2 hours and 20 minutes and 29 seconds. And she's ranked number 16th in the world. We've got Haven Halu at 2 hours and 20 minutes and 19 seconds. She's from Ethiopia. She's ranked 18 as for the world rankings. And of course, we've got our Australian Sinead Diver. She's 2 hours 21:34. She's ranked 143rd in the world. So with any luck, she will also have that home ground cheering her on and pushing her through, and she might get a PB as well with any luck.
Yeah. It'd be good to see big crowds there this year. I think that would be, and those big crowds obviously cheering for everyone, but a really big louder cheer for the Australians, and maybe that's going to be enough to get them to bridge that time differences.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be good, and I think for both Brett and Sinead, it'll be a good hit out before Paris next year in the Olympics, and I think it'll give them probably another level of confidence, especially if they can go close to their PBs or better, competing against sort of elite fields here at home, to be able to then go over to Paris in about this time next year and hopefully, go a little bit quicker over there in a bigger field. So
we haven't seen if our friend Mr. Avery from New Zealand's in the
no,
fields
he hasn't
at all.
been announced.
It hasn't been announced yet.
We'll keep an eye out for him. He may come over. Who knows? All right. Well, thank you for those tongue twisters, Tara.
Sorry.
I think I got the last ones from the Gold Coast. So I think, Tony, it's your go next when we have some tongue twisters coming up.
I'm ready for it.
All right. So that's going to be one very quick field. We've got number 3s in both the men's and the women's there. So thanks, Tara, for going through that. Okay, now it's time to hear from our very special guest. So I'm going to hand you over to Tony, who's going to give a bit of an introduction to our special guest, Terry. And it's over to you. Go for it.
Awesome. So Terry Frew is our special guest today, and he was the 50th New Zealander to achieve the Abbots Six-Star medal. And now Sharon and I met Terry at the New York Marathon in 2018, and he was there with his good mate, John Sellers. Now, John is a little bit older than Terry, and he had run at that time well over 70 marathons. So to be talking with both of these guys at the pre-race dinner, Rob D. Costella's up there on the stage talking to us about the marathon. And there's John Sellers, this guy that's run 74 marathons. And of course, there's Terry Frew. And from there, we've become really, really good mates. Funnily enough, those two met doing the Great Wall of China marathon, which they also say is quite challenging and quite tough. Now, Terry's a great bloke. He's got one detriment. He supports the Canterbury Bulldogs. But he is a great bloke. He gets on with just about everyone. He's a great runner. He's down to earth. He works hard at what he does. And I think that's what you're going to see and hear in this interview. He talks about a couple of key things that have helped him in his marathon journey. So sit back and enjoy Terry Frew, the 50th New Zealander to get this Abbots World Majors Six-Star medal.
Good morning, Terry. Welcome to the Flying RuNR podcast, and thank you for joining us today. So we're going to start asking a number of questions of you, and I guess the most important one, or the first one that we always ask all of our guests when they join us, is when did you get into running, and why did you get into running?
I didn't get into running until middle age, probably about 45. I think I started running. I had no idea even know how to run. I think I started about half a K, and that was about it. Run out of breath, and just slowly set myself a goal of doing the bridge to Brisbane. And I didn't even do that the first year. I done a groin, so second year I managed it and just progressed. And I think the reason I did it, I was letting myself go a little bit, middle age and all that. And decided to do something about it.
Mm.
And here I am.
It's a common story. I think I'm still letting myself go, but anyway. So Terry, what was then the motivation for you to take on marathons, and in particular to chase the Six-Star medal?
Oh shit! It's I don't know. I'm pretty goal driven on that, and as I said before, I started off on a 10K, and then progressed to half a marathon, and then I thought I'd try a marathon out, and I think everyone will say the same. I'm never going to do another one. 2 weeks later, I'm thinking I can do another one, and I had no idea what the Six-Star was. A good friend of mine, and him, John Sellers, wanted me to go to New York with him. So we decided to do New York. And while I was over there, I saw the Six-Star thing. I thought, what's this? And I thought to myself, right, that's my next goal. And I achieved that this year.
Yeah, excellent. We first met in New York, and that must be.
Yes.
I'd have to consider that, seeing that you met Sharon and I there, that would have to be one of your favourite events. But seriously, what would your favourite running event be?
Oh, meeting yous, of course. But
what about me?
Look, they're all favourites of mine. I think I'll never go past New York as being the one that gave me the tingles that I'm running. Just the thought of running the New York Marathon in New York and 2 million people screaming on the sides. Like it's just amazing. It's just that'd be my favourite. But I think this year New York, Tokyo, having my 2 sons there was very, very special. My sister and brother-in-law were also there. It was a pretty special occasion for me because it's my Six-Star, and just having them there and hearing them yell out on the sidelines, that's got to be one of the favourites as well.
Yeah, no, that was a good event. We were there with you, and Tara and I really enjoyed Tokyo Marathon as well. It's there's something special about running those major events, and Tokyo itself is a particularly special one because the people on the sidelines really enjoy marathon running, and they actually understand marathon running really well. So they do support you the whole way.
Of course they do. Yeah, no, yeah. Crowds are great in all of them.
Yeah. When you're training or when you're in a race and things start to go tough, what do you do to motivate yourself to keep going, or how do you keep yourself being driven when things get tough?
Oh, shit. And they get tough, all right. All marathons are tough. I think just the end goal, like I always give myself a rough time I want to achieve, and I'm pretty tough on myself. So just the end goal, wanting to achieve what I set out for, and you spend a long time training for a marathon, as you know, and I just don't want to let myself down.
Yeah.
So that's just sort of keeps me going. There's some really, really tough times in marathons. You get past that 30, 35K mark and you just want to give up and give up and give up. And, I'd say most people stop and have a little bit of a walk and all that. And I do that. And it might only be for 20 seconds and all that. But all of a sudden, someone will give you a slap on the back or, come on, mate, let's go. And off you go again. And you sort of get your second breath.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've been there. I know I have. It's definitely those people around you on the day, they do help you get through it. And particularly, I guess, also the crowds on those major events. And you talked about New York and the 2 million crowd there. You feel like you don't want to let them down when you're running past that many people, I guess. Is that how you feel?
Yeah, true. And every now and again you hear your name yelled out, and you think, wow, they've noticed you and all that. You can't let them down. So you dig in, you find something, you dig in and you keep going. And all of a sudden you see the finish line, and all of a sudden it's like first kilometre. I'm sprinting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do hype it up.
Well, it feels like I'm sprinting anyway. Probably not.
I was just about to say I'd love to think I'm sprinting at the end, but sometimes it's more of a dawdle. But it's interesting, isn't it? You're running a race with potentially 30 to 50,000 strangers, yet you're all on the one journey. You've all got the one. You're all comrades in a journey, so to speak. And you know, those pats on the back, or some little stranger saying, "Come on, Australia," or whatever it is that they. You know, it's just an amazing feeling. And I guess when we talk about feelings for yourself, you're a proud New Zealander living here in Australia. And currently, I think with the Six-Star medals, well, I know with the Six-Star medals, there's 71 Kiwis that currently have achieved that goal. So for starters, that's a pretty select group that you're in. But when you look at how the Six-Stars went, before Tokyo this year, there was only 39 Kiwis that had the Six-Star medal. And there were 24 of those 24 Kiwis running in the Tokyo Marathon, the same marathon that you got your Six-Star. And based on your time, Terry, I think you were officially the 50th New Zealander to achieve the star.
Yeah, top 50, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's not bad. That's pretty select. So well done.
It is. And as you know, Tokyo was there's over 3,000 Six-Star medalists in Tokyo.
Yeah, that's amazing. 3,000, and I think 3,300, if my memory serves me correctly. And unfortunately, there was one or two that missed some of the cutoffs during that particular event. So, I mean, that would have been devastating for those Six-Star finishers to be taken off the course at the 11.
Not fair.
Yeah,
doesn't seem fair, does it?
No, it's challenging. Hey, Terry, now that you've got the Six-Star, what are you training for next?
I've got Sydney coming up in September. They, as you're aware, they are vying for the Abbots seventh major. I just thought I'd put my 2 bobs worth in and add to the numbers, you know, and I wasn't going to do it. I originally, my next goal was to do Comrades in South Africa. That's a bit of a challenge, that one, but yeah, I couldn't wait, so I thought I'll do Sydney, and yeah, I think it's 9 or 10 weeks to go.
Yeah, it's a week before we do Berlin, so we've got about 10 weeks to go to Berlin. So yeah, about 9 weeks for you. So how are you going on your training, I guess, at the moment for Sydney? Are you starting to ramp up the miles and get the distance in on the legs?
Yeah, I am actually. I'm it's starting to come together. I've got the jetty to jetty half marathon this week, and then after this week, I'll ramp it up a little bit more.
Yeah.
Until I get to taper time, and then Sydney. Yeah.
Yeah. I should also say you're doing the jetty to jetty half. Tara and I are doing the jetty to jetty 10K event as well. But I should also say that the way we got to meet you was actually via Tony. And when we said we were doing the London Marathon, Tony mentioned that you were doing it and to keep an eye out for you. And then on our training tracks, we train on essentially the same training tracks. And we'd put a post up on one of the pages that we did, and Terry saw it. And the next week we literally bumped into you as we were running and have been good mates ever since. So it is a small world, this marathon world.
It is.
And you meet a lot of people along the way. Now, on your journey, you've done the Six-Stars, as we said. So tell us a little bit about that Six-Star journey. How many years did it take you to go on that Six-Star journey to achieve the Six-Stars?
Look, I think I was talking to Tony the other day. I only just thought about it the other day. All up is 4.5 years, I think. The first 3 I did in like 11.5 months, and then of course I had COVID, stuffed everything up, and so there's nothing for a couple of years, and then I did the last 3 in 10.5 months. So, but all up about 4.5 years. Okay.
And do you want to just quickly recap your thoughts, I guess, on each of those races? So you started off with New York? You just mentioned that briefly. What was your experience of the course and the race itself?
Oh, look, like I said before, I can't beat New York. It's just amazing. The course, loved the course. I didn't like Fifth Ave much coming up towards the end because it's just a slow, steady grind.
Yep.
But apart from that, the rest of the course was just simply amazing.
Yep.
And then after that, I did Berlin. Got a PB in Berlin, so I was pretty happy with that. The course was all right. It was miserable, just drizzled the whole time. So pretty cold when I finished that one. 2 weeks later, I did Chicago. I didn't quite get my goal time in Berlin, so I thought I was going to go all out in Chicago. Yeah, that didn't go too well either, but that course was okay, but the roads are pretty rough in Chicago. A lot of potholes, and so be careful if you're going to do Chicago.
Yeah.
And then we had COVID and all that, and what was next? I did Boston.
Yep.
Boston, I wasn't a great fan of Boston. I'm going to go back and do that one again because it's the only one I didn't do under 4 hours. So I was a little bit cautious in my training. But yeah, look, Boston's Boston. I love Boston City itself. I think it's an amazing place. The course, starting out in the country and coming in, like you don't get the same crowd effect unless probably the last 10 Ks when you head into the city and all that. And then once you hit the old sit go sign, the crowds go crazy and all that sort of stuff. So,
so just for the listeners, I guess, that don't know, Boston is a point-to-point course where you start essentially 42 kilometres out from the centre of Boston and you start in a little rural area or somewhere thereabouts, and then you run through a series of towns. So my understanding is, and I haven't done it yet, I know both of you guys have, as you hit each of those towns, there's a little bit of a crowd in each town, and then it dies off and you're a little bit of quiet time between towns. Is that right?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. That's the way it is. And you go past the Screaming Girls. I can't remember what the school's called, but that's early on the race. The old Screaming Girls screaming out everywhere and all that. So, that's the case. And then you hit the series of hills, Heartbreak Hill being the last one there. It's pretty tough going there as well. But, the course is okay, but, it's you get a little bit lost sometimes when you haven't got the crowds cheering you on and all that sort of stuff. And then after that, went to London. You were there. I think you were both there, weren't you, in London?
Yeah, we both were, yeah.
Look, London was just simply amazing too. I love the city and all that. The course, loved the course. A lot of landmarks there, running over the Tower Bridge and past Big Ben and all that sort of, it's pretty special times there as well. And then, of course, this year I did the Tokyo Six-Star in Tokyo with my family there and you there as well. And it was just a pretty special moment, that one as well. Had a special dinner that night with my boys and my sister and brother-in-law, Kay and Mark. And we foregoed the Tokyo after marathon party and all that because I was just enjoying myself so much, just with a small group of family, and we had a ball.
Yeah, that's what it's all about ultimately, isn't it? It's about what we enjoy and what we do. And I must say, Terry, I've got your figures up here on my other screen, and Tara made a comment in our most recent episode that you're fast and in relative terms, and for someone to say that their worst marathon was a 4:04, I think that's a pretty good example of the quality of runner that you are. But you've had it pretty tough because you talked about your first 3, and then you had this little thing called a hip replacement that many people then consign themselves to the scrap heap and never to run again. Yet for you, it almost invigorated you to go even further and faster and better. So talk about that journey, because so many people would be that's it, I'm done. I'm going to just look after the new hip. And you just said, I'm going to keep running.
Yeah, well, I suppose when I had trouble with my hip way before New York, and doctor basically told me not to run anymore. And I took 6 months off running, did a lot of pull work and all that sort of stuff to keep my fitness going and all that. And I went back and he said, look, your hip's worse. You're probably, and I was starting to well up in my eyes actually with the old doc in front of me. I thought, shit, I've got to get out of here. And I just said to him, look, I don't care what you say. I'm going to go for a run this afternoon. I just need to go and do it. And it seemed to feel all right. And that's when John Sallis got in touch with me. He said, you want to do New York? I said, right, I'll give me to the end of the year. If I can run 20 Ks, I'll do New York with you the following year. So that's what happened. But and I persevered with the old hip. I had to, probably not the cleverest of things to do, but I was taking painkillers on my long runs and on the marathons and all that just to get through them. And then once I finished Chicago, I came back, and after a little bit of a break, I started going for a few small runs, and the hip was just giving away on me. And yeah, that was D-Day there. I went made an appointment with a specialist again, and he said, yeah, look, it's knackered. So I said, well, book me in.
That's technical terms, isn't it? Knackered. So.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I said, just book me in. So I was very, very, very fortunate to get in before they closed the doors for COVID in the hospitals. I got in, I think, about a week or 2 weeks before they closed the doors. So, and, it worked out not too bad. I could have my rehab. There's no marathons, nothing. I wasn't missing out on anything because COVID was there and there's no runs, no majors, nothing happening. So I sort of took my time a little bit in my rehab and yeah, being a bit stubborn, I went out and started running probably a little bit too early. I tried to do too much thinking that, I'm back to normal, but then all of a sudden it collapsed on me again. And the doc told me to take another 3 months off. So I just taken another 3 months off running and then I went back, started back very, very cautiously and slowly and built my way up. And then once they started opening up again, I'm in Boston, and I was lucky with Boston that when I did my PB in Berlin, I actually qualified for Boston. So, and that window was extended because of COVID. So I was lucky enough to still use that time to get into Boston. But the hip's fine now. It's doing real, real good. My pace has dropped off a little bit, but it probably comes with a little bit of age as well.
It's dropped off a little bit, but you're still going sub 4 hours. So
yeah. Well, I hope to do that again in Sydney, but we'll see how we go.
Yeah. I guess that helps. You don't get as much pain, I guess, in the hip now that it's mechanically fixed. But I guess it would lead to other issues when you're running, change of style, change of technique, those sorts of things on the body. Is that the case for you?
Yeah. I started running when I came back, and I thought I need to. I bounce a fair bit when I run, so I needed to sort of stop that a little bit. So I had to change my style a little bit. So I don't know what you call them, sort of a half-pipe shuffle type stuff, and try not to bounce as much. Try and protect the hip a little bit. I've sort of gone back to my old style a little bit, but not as bad. But yeah, and my stride length's not there as it used to be. Whether that's related to the hip or not, I'm not sure. But it's pace has dropped off and all that sort of stuff. But I'm just happy to be out there, running and just still enjoying myself.
Yeah, very much so.
So did your marathon preparation then change? I guess pre-hip, you would have had a certain routine and a certain program you may have followed to afterwards. Has it changed much in that time, or and what would a typical program, I guess, look like for you now building up to a marathon? So 9 weeks out of Sydney, you're talking about a half marathon this weekend and building up. What sort of distances do you go to, and sort of how regularly do you run each week?
I'm probably doing about 80 odd Ks a week, bit over 80 Ks a week at the moment. I'll step that up to pretty close to 100 Ks for maybe 4 or 5 weeks before I taper. And I don't really do a big taper, but pre-hip, pretty similar distances. I had an online coach there. He's very good. He's the one that got me to my PB and all that sort of stuff. I sort of follow a little bit to what he taught me, but I sort of just wing it nowadays, and just sort of pinch a little bit off a few. But I use a basic what do you call it? Here's one of these moments you got to edit, all right?
Training plan?
Yeah, training plan. Yeah, I use a basic training plan, but mainly just for the workout parts of it. Not even so much for the long runs, mainly just for the workouts. You know, you do different workouts and all that sort of stuff. So I try and stick to one plan per marathon and stick to those workouts, and all the rest I just go run. I'm a typical runner, and I suppose my easy runs are probably not easy enough. I try. But, you know, you get a little bit eager and think, oh, this feels great. And you keep going and you realise you probably ran a little bit too fast. But, you know, I've only a few more years left of me, so I do what I like, I suppose. But, yeah, no, look, I enjoy it. I start off by probably a 20-week. I casually run anyway. Then about 20 weeks to go, I'll start a plan, and I'll probably just start off with about 4 runs a week, and then I'll after about four weeks, I'll slip it up to 5, and then I'll go up to 6. I'm doing 6 at the moment, and then, as I said, next week I'll probably slip it up to 7, and slowly work up to about 100 or a bit over 100 Ks for the week.
Yeah, it's certainly time on the legs, isn't it? And that certainly helps you no matter what it is that you're aiming for. So. One thing that's always intrigued me, Terry, once you hit your 6-star goal, and was there then a challenge for you to find motivation for your next running goal? I mean, it is such a build-up, and in your space, it was from 2018 right through to 2023. So it's such a big focus for those 5 years. When you achieve that 6-star goal, did you find that your motivation dropped when you were looking at, well, what's next? I've achieved what I set out to achieve.
I'm not sure the motivation dropped, but I was a little bit lost there for a little while, for about a month. Yeah, you're right. That 6-star, it consumed me for about, best part of 5 years to achieve that. And that was my sole focus, is get that 6-star, you know. And then I got back after I did it, and after a few days or a week or whatever it might be, and I thought, what do I do now? And I was totally lost. I knew I had comrades on the horizon, but I couldn't wait that long. As I said before, I couldn't wait that long, and that's why I poked Sydney in the middle there, because, I was just totally lost, because my focus had always been on that 6-star, and you achieve it, and it's an amazing feeling being able to get that, and then all of a sudden it's a bit of a downer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you've got to always keep aiming for something, and that's the hard thing. Like, you know, I know Tara and I, that's our goal at the moment. We're aiming. I know Tony and Sharon, it's the same for you as well, aiming for that 6-star over the next couple of years. But got to have something to aim for beyond that as well to keep it going, and other challenges. And that's the difficult thing, I guess. So you talk about comrades. Is that your next big challenge, I guess?
Yeah. It's a 90 Ks one over in South Africa over there. Yeah, I've been wanting to do that for a few years now. But like I said, my focus was on the 6 stars. I didn't want to interrupt that and all that. So that's my next big challenge, that one there, and it's going to be a challenge. Yeah, and after listening to Mari Ma, and her, I had no idea that she was still that active and running. But to do 7 of those marathon disables, I'm sure I can get through one comrades.
Yeah. Well, it's uphill your year, I think, isn't it? Next year's an uphill year for comrades.
I think it is. Yeah.
So there's listeners out there.
What goes up must come down. So I think so.
So for those listeners out there who don't know, Comrades is almost a national event in South Africa. Pretty much the whole country tunes into it. It's a 90-kilometre run one year it goes uphill, and then next year they reverse it and you go downhill. And everyone tends to think running downhill is the easiest course, but those who I've talked to say downhill is actually harder than the uphill. It's harder on your body. So I'm not saying you're getting an easy year. It's 90 kilometres uphill next year, Terry. But
I don't think either of them are going to be easy.
No, I don't think running 90 Ks is easy at all. And it was interesting, Terry, hearing you after the 6 stars, because in my mind, initially, my thought process was once I'd done those 6 stars, I was never going to run a marathon again. I didn't have to. I could just pick and choose 10K fun runs and just keep running that way. But then suddenly New York 2025, because we plan to hit the 6-star in Tokyo next year. So New York 2024 is our victory lap. So we're going to run it as our victory lap and to see our name on the 6-star board. And then I started thinking about, and I think we talked about this over the weekend, I'm now thinking about doing Boston again, because I want to beat the course as opposed to just surviving the course. So it's interesting how just starting to think about things and setting a goal and extending life in that journey. So it will be interesting to see.
Yeah,
for sure. I'm thinking of doing New York that year again too, and I'm definitely want to do Boston again. I'm going to get under 4 hours. So.
And I think it's somebody's 50th, so that's another reason to be
doing
New York.
I've heard that rumor, yeah.
Tara's getting old, isn't she? No. So hopefully, fingers crossed, in the way things work out, Tara and I will be achieving our 6-star at New York next year.
Pretty amazing.
I also turned 50 that year, is in that month as well, in November. So the more the merrier. Let's celebrate it and have a good party. So let's do that. We understand after each of the majors, you capture an image on a print and you put them up on your wall at home. And how did that all start? And I guess and now that you've got all 6, tell us a little bit about some of the images and things you've captured on those things and the meaning behind some of those pictures you've got.
I don't even know how it started. I when I'd done the first 3, I thought, I might go get a print of them, and I sort of saved, like photos or images of, because they're all marathon related. So the New York one is simply just worded like you run through 5 boroughs in New York. So that all it is just a print of the 5 boroughs. And then I think Berlin is the professional image of me running underneath Brandenburg Gate on the last half a K, which is it's pretty good, and it's my favourite because on the left hand side I can see my sister and brother-in-law on the sideline as well. You can just pick them there, and I think at the moment, and as I'm running, I've got my arm up like that, and I'm waving to them because Mark yelled out to me, and just to look at them over there was pretty special as well. And they're just like that. Like Chicago's just be dangling my medal over a river, over the Chicago River over there, and just simple marathon related things. I just thought it might look good, and I got them going up my stairway. Boston one's is a collage of 4 different race number, the yellow buses, which is pretty unique over there, and all that. London is another one of Bullfed running with Big Ben and Parliament House behind me. It's pretty, that's pretty good one too. And my last one, of course, was me and my sons in my race kit, and they're standing there and that. So that's pretty special as well. They're all pretty special. All have their moments,
Yeah, and that's a big part of it all, and it's something we celebrate here as well, is the celebration, right? Running a marathon is a pretty unique thing. Running 6 major marathons around the world is definitely a very unique thing. There's not many people that have done it, but to capture those memories and to celebrate them so that every time you see them or somebody else sees them, it brings back those happy memories of those times, and that training you've put in, the effort that you put in on the day, and the reward that you had at the end of actually finishing it in the time that you wanted. So I think it's a very good thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Very much so. And Terry, just for a final question before we sign off, what advice would you give to anyone who's inspired now or silly enough to set aim for 6 stars or even completing their first marathon? What's some sage advice from the wise warrior that you are would you give to them?
Don't even think about it unless you're going to put the big efforts in. You got to put the long, hard runs in. Commitment and consistency. As you hear those words all the time. You got to be consistent if you're training, and don't go and half-hearted. It's not an easy task. And if you want to go do the 6 stars, go for it. It's a great way to see the world, and do something that you love and meet some amazing people along the way.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Terry, for joining us today. And we look forward to, I guess, seeing you on your next adventures, wherever they are, obviously Sydney. And I know a few of our listeners are going to Sydney and running Sydney as well soon. But good luck with Comrades next year, and obviously with your half marathon this weekend as well. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been excellent. Thanks, Terry.
Okay. See ya.
All right. Well, thanks, Terry, for that very enlightening discussion there, and it was really good to hear from Terry around his journey that he's been on, how it all started out for him, and also the ups and downs. I guess the down being his knee reconstruction that he had along the way. Knee or hip? Hip. Knee
I was going to say that wasn't a knee; it was definitely a hip.
Definitely a hip. Tony, Terry's one of those blokes that we've met along the way. We've done a couple of tours overseas with him. He's one of those good all-round blokes, and I think that came through in the interview.
And being a local running track as well, we get to see him almost every weekend. So he's a lovely guy.
And for those that know Terry and follow him on Strava, you know that he's not shy of doing a distance run. So, and some of the key things that stood out when we were talking with Terry is, his humility about what it is that he's done. B, the second thing was the highlight. When I asked him about the highlight, he shared the fact that it was his sons that were able to be there and members of his family when he collected his 6-star. And I think that shows, and I think that just shows where his heart and his soul is, I guess. The other thing that stands out, he's dedicated. He's got consistency in what he does. He just gets up and runs, and he's worked with a coach. He follows the training plan. He sets a goal. He achieves it. And the interesting thing that he also mentioned is that he wants to get back to Boston. And I've got it right this time. He wants to get back to Boston because that's the only one he's done where he went over 4 hours. So I talk about consistency, and this is what you see with Terry. So I'll just go through the times that he had with all his 6 majors in order of how he did them. So his first one was 2018 New York, and he did 3:43. I won't worry about the 14 seconds. I'll just keep it simple.
It's nothing over 42 kilometers.
Yeah.
Unless you keep changing.
And then he did Berlin, and Berlin was his quickest time at 3:27. Chicago, he followed that 2 weeks after Berlin in 2019, and he did 3:41. And then, as he mentioned in the interview, there was the COVID break, and also what transpired was his hip replacement break. He came back in 2022 and ran Boston in 4:04, and backed that up 2 weeks later. Might have been a week later with London. No, it wasn't. London was October that year.
October. Yep.
So that was 3:51, and then he did Tokyo in 3:57. So, considering his fastest time 3:27, and he finished with Tokyo at 3:57 with a brand new hip, and when most people are told after a hip replacement you will never run again, I think is just a testament to toughness and determination.
Yeah, he's done very well, and there wouldn't be too many people out there with busted hip that are out there running marathons in those sort of pace that he's done it in. So,
and he's now He's now looking to do comrades. My God. All right. So, and it wouldn't be coming to the end of the show if we didn't do Tim's funny now. So, Tim, I'm going to hand it back to you. It's time for your funny.
I don't think it gets any better this week. But anyway, we'll have a crack and see how it goes. So, what do you call a clown who always signs up to every marathon? Do you know anyone? No?
I'd call him Tim, but anyway.
So a clown that signs up for every marathon, that's called a running gag.
Oh, God.
I got to get them better. I got to find some better ones. But anyway,
Tony, I think you're going to have to hand the funnies over to you.
Anyway.
I don't mind. I don't mind a good dad joke.
Yeah,
That's good dad joke.
All right, so that's the end of this week's episode. So Tara, what's coming up on next week's episode?
Oh, excellent. So next week we're talking more about running and in particular passing on some of those tips and tricks that we have learned along the way to help us with our nutrition, hydration, recovery, muscular strength, and just generally motivating ourselves to keep going when we're feeling flat. We will talk about some of our regular things that we do to maintain our bodies whilst digging a little deeper into our training methodologies. So stay tuned.
Cool. That sounds great. I wonder what we're going to talk about then.
I think it's important that we share those tips because, as we say, we want 15,000 finishes at Sydney. So we really want people to finish, not just start. So
that's it. So it should be a really good episode, and I can't wait for it next week. So thank you, Tony, for joining us tonight, and thank you, Tara. So we've now concluded our third episode. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe wherever you listened or watch this episode. Video of this episode will be available on Spotify and YouTube, and audio will be on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, and most other popular podcast platforms.
Google?
Including Google, yes. So remember, every step forward is a victory. Lace up, hit the road, and we'll catch you on the next episode. So until then, happy running.
Happy running.
happy running.